It's Christmas, bitches! Happy snow and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, and welcome to Brainwave Live, a show like never before, with outrageous talent, spectacular performances, and unique takes on reality. For tonight's performances, we have two poets and a ukulele. So first, let's get on to that music. Brought to us by our wonderful artist from the wonderful hills of Ukeland, Sean O'Halloran.
You say your life is ruined. You said I won't believe the things you've been doing just to sit down and breathe. I think you could use a snow day in the pouring rain, a baseball game in a hurricane, or we can throw our lives all down the drain because the end of the world's just growing pains. And I don't gotta have the spotlight, just wanna have a good time. And it seems like that won't happen in our lives. So let's just wait till something happens, till the world is on its last legs. Because you and I will take our time and live another life. And I'll see you again on June 31st when all our problems end. I'll see you when the world falls apart so we can do this all again. Oh, the world got high, we'll probably die, so let's go out like the good old times. 'Cause when the world is burning down, oh, we'll be in our prime. You say you're going crazy, well honey, that makes two. What I wouldn't give just to spend doomsday with you. Oh, 'cause we're gonna have such a hell of a time, because it's an end to this hell we call life. So you can work your ass off at a 9 to 5, waiting for the day when we all die. And I don't gotta have the spotlight, just wanna have a good time. And it seems like that won't happen in our lives. So let's just wait till something happens, till the world is on its last legs. Because you and I will take our time and live another life. And I'll see you again on June 31st when all our problems end. Oh, I'll see you when the world falls apart so we can do this all again. Oh, the world got high, we'll probably die, so let's go out like the good old times. 'Cause when the world is burning down, oh, we'll be in our prime. Oh, I'm worried now that you might slip away, so stay with me for just another day. Then among the bodies and nuclear waste, well, we are gonna finally be okay. When I see you again this June 31st when all our problems end. Oh, I'll see you when the world falls apart so we can do this all again. Oh, the world got high, we'll probably die, so let's go out like the good old times. 'Cause when the world is burning down, oh, 'cause I don't gotta have the spotlight, I just wanna have a good time. And it seems like that won't happen in our lives. So let's just wait till something happens, till the world is on its last legs. Because you and I, because you and I, because you and I, we're gonna live another life. I'm stuck in a dream, a perfect reality. I keep thinking that you could set me free. And now that I am all alone and you won't pick up the phone, oh, what's the point of ever growing old? Now that the void of voicemail gets worse when you're lonely, and the ones on the phone trapped in memories only. Oh, you're not in my life, but you're stuck in my head. Oh God, I live my life in pieces, leading back where I began. Hey, hey, do you remember the way you waved goodbye, standing in my driveway? We said we'd meet again one day before our childhood decays. Oh, how that sounds so cliche. And though we knew we had perfection, why'd we go different directions? Now I'm staring at your number, I can't see my own reflection. Don't recognize my projection, maybe I'm losing connection after all those years without your protection. And oh, the void of voicemail gets worse when you're lonely, and the ones on the phone trapped in memories only. Oh, you're not in my life, but you're stuck in my head. Oh God, I live my life in pieces, leading back where I began. Hello, hello, I'll leave a message at the tone. We both know that life has holes, and now I'm sinking and I'm thinking, how do I fix these broken bones now that the void of voicemail gets worse when you're lonely? The ones on the phone trapped in memories only. You're not in my life, but you're stuck in my head. I live my life in pieces, leading back where I began. Oh, we can ring around the wreckage with a pocket full of lies. A common side effect is that you lose your mind. We can tear our lives apart, one broken promise at a time, because there's nothing like performance driven from a wish to die. Gather round and listen to my cliche about the way the world was better off yesterday, and take a seat, the entertainment's here tonight. And you can put on a mask or you can put on a show, just know you've only got a couple more lines to throw. So take a seat, the entertainment's here tonight. When whoops, I did it again, because you know that there's no side of the end. And I've been having conversations with my friends, or maybe that was just the voices in my head, that everybody wants me on the floor. This is just the kind of chance I'm waiting for. Now let's hope you haven't seen this one before, or else I'm gonna have to find out what's in store. We all ring around the wreckage with a pocket full of lies. A common side effect is that you lose your mind. So let's all tear our lives apart, one broken promise at a time, because there's nothing like performance driven from a wish to die. And now that we're all going crazy, there's nothing left to faze me except watching everybody lose control. And oh, I know this might sound pitiful, but boy, is it so typical to end up with this wreckage on my soul. And oh, you want a second verse? Well, it just gets worse, and no amount of propaganda can erase this hurt. So take a seat, we're running out of time. Now come one, come all to the curtain call. We've got all creatures great and small. And take a seat, the entertainment's here tonight. When whoops, I did it again, because you know that there's no side of the end. And I've been having conversations with my friends. I come to know that it's the voices in my head. Nobody is asking me to hit the floor. So buckle up and lock the door. I won't let myself be so ignored, 'cause there's just one thing I'm made for, and it's to ring around the wreckage with a pocket full of lies. A common side effect is that you lose your mind. So let's all tear our lives apart, one broken promise at a time. 'Cause there's nothing like performance driven from a wish to die. Now that we're all going crazy, there's nothing left to faze me except watching everybody lose control. And now I know this might sound pitiful, but boy, is it so typical to end up with this wreckage on my soul. So let's put on a show. Let's put on a spectacle, 'cause it's the only way to break the status quo. And let's make it stylish, and let's make it loud. We'll tear this whole damn theater out the ground. And this might sound over dramatic and a little ecstatic, but there's only one way to know. It is anticlimactic to pretend it's not tragic, that you're willing to let everything go, just to ring around the wreckage with a pocket full of lies. A common side effect is that you lose your mind. We can tear our lives apart, one broken promise at a time. 'Cause there's nothing like performance driven from a wish to die. And now that we're all going crazy, there's nothing left to faze me than watching everybody lose control. And now I know this might sound pitiful, but boy, is it so typical to end up with this wreckage on my soul.
What a terrific turn of musical events for our pretty little earlobes to hear. Wow. I'm supposed to stall, but really I have nothing to say. Oh, today we have a PSA about reasons to say nay to the MJ. Editor, play the clip. Well, I hope all of you clamoring kids learned a good lesson. Next up, we have some words from the mouth and mind of the one and only Rafe Ali.
Did Jesus ever want to fight back as people spat words sharp as tacks? He said, turn the other cheek, and got called weak. He said, don't be violent, and look where that got him. The world isn't a place that rewards kindness, it just rewards a cycle of mindless survival, not really living, hoping you won't be the next killing you hear about on the news, about some kid who just let loose, or the next to face down a gun just because you weren't one of them, another, the other, or because you had the wrong lover, or because your skin's the wrong color. Y'all sing about the first word or clap, but never about the first crack of a gun fired at the crack of dawn at a kid just trying to mind his family's farm, in the absence of a father last seen wrapped in chains who now has to mind a new farm in a whole new place, or the screams of a mother, baby stolen from her, the kid's body not really her own because she grew up alone, except for the hands that tore at her clothes, the same hands that wrote out marriage oaths to another woman, a different wife, but this one doesn't have control of her life. Across the sea, a man sobs for the loss of his kid, the same one that he hid away under the floorboards as soldiers came to steal away his hoard of gold that doesn't exist. So they forced his son to enlist, to be filled with holes on the front and be delivered back with little more than a grunt and a muttered apology, a mention of how brave a man he had been, to a man who has lost the light in his eye and wants little more than to die, and be buried alongside his son and daughter and wife, because without them, there's no meaning to life. Did the Buddha ever stop and think that this is what we deserve? We fight and we hurt, wage wars in the name of kings we claim were chosen by God, as we live like dogs in a pen of earth and grass, thrown into a system that spits us out its ass, where we climb over each other's heads to get to the top, and even when we reach it, it's non-stop.
Well, that sure has left my brain feeling full of inspiration and feeling. But what about some more? Well, here comes two more from Laura Aljori.
So before I start, I'm just going to issue a quick trigger warning. My poems are going to talk about sexual assault. I'm walking home from the beach, hair plastered to my sticky forehead, bag at my feet looking straight ahead. There's a place on the train waiting for me. It's so inviting. I'm so tired. I just want to take a seat. He sat down next to me, a warm smile on his face. He's next to me, in his seat, but in my space. His hot breath fans my face as he stretched out his hand, a lovely, innocent gesture that left me unable to stand. He calls over his brother. "Look at this pretty girl," he cries. But there was something else I could see sparkling behind his eyes. They asked me for my number. It's 2 against 1. But I still had the courage to ask them their age. 21. "You're a minor," they exclaim, and something shifts in their expression. But they don't seem the type to offer any sort of aggression. After all, they've been harmless and no one else has noticed. How they're making me flustered, how their eyes are so focused on the skin that's never felt so bare. After all, they've no reason to stare. There's hardly anything there. "What stopped you get off?" one asks, uncomfortably close. But his eyes crinkle with familiarity. "So he can't hurt me, can he?" I'm hardly thinking and blurt out my station. "But my dad's gonna pick me up from there," I say, and watch their faces full in frustration. I might have been taught to be suspicious of scary strangers, but not to friendly ones. It's a compliment to be called pretty, isn't it? It's flattering to be asked for your number, just as it is to be catcalled, right? It's my stop, but he doesn't move, as if he's glued to his seat. If I don't get off now, I'll be treated with more polite conversation, more insincere flattery, more seemingly harmless words that brand a mark on my skin that has yet to heal. I look around, but nobody offers help, all staring shamefully at the ground rather than acknowledging my distress. He's taking up the whole seat, his brother blocking my exit. I'm left with no other option than to climb over a grown man who seemingly liked to have my ass in his face. I'm red and pushed to the point of tears, but his brother is still in my way, so I push past, ignoring his attempt asking me to stay. The contact I make burns my skin, making me visibly recoil. And if I were to open my mouth to scream, everyone around would have feigned blindness, to not be confronted with the repulsive situation of which I still dream. Not all men, but I've been walking home with keys in my hand since I was 10. Not all men, but I lived in the 3rd safest country in the world and I still felt threatened. Not all men, but I flinch every time someone touches me, in fear it will happen again. Don't talk to strange men, they say. But what if I told you it wasn't just strange men? What if it was your father, your grandfather, your friend? Don't show your shoulders, they say. But is it our fault if a man 40 years older than us is turned on by a little girl in a swimsuit? And if she's too young to be wearing that, then shouldn't she be too young to be sexualized in it? She was asking for it, they say. Was she? Were we? Did we look you in the eyes and say yes, or did you trick us, manipulate us into getting undressed? Not all men. Not all men. But all women. Every single one. I'm not your princess, not your darling, not your honey, not your charming little girl you think you can abuse and hurt without consequences. But the truth is, we will never be more than a pretty face to gawk at, never more than someone whose body you can scrutinize, never more than a figure you can whistle and shout at, never more than an object to you. I don't call you out. Maybe I'm scared. Maybe it's just the words drowning in my throat as you push them down with the guilt that was supposed to be yours. For you, it's just another sword you've thrust, but for me, it's a wound that will never heal. It takes 7 years for our skin to completely regrow, 7 years for your fingerprints to have left me completely, 7 more to forget what you did, but never enough to forgive. You claim it was a mistake, a drunken decision, an innocent gesture, because while society has taught girls to cover up, to keep hold of their drinks, to call their friends if you've gotten home safe, the boys were let out to play, and not once taught that their actions can hurt. And they do. Not all men, but all women. Every single one.
Wow, weren't those just such amazing, touching words? They surely leave my spirit feeling better. Well, if you feel inspired by our two amazing poets and want to be on our crew or want to come on as a performer, please email us at brainwave@brooklineinteractive.org. And now stay tuned for an awesome documentary about the local music scene brought to us by our very own Matali.
One of my favorite artists that is a local artist from Boston is a band called Seven Spires, and I believe that their lead vocalist and arranger is probably one of the most inspirational local Boston metal musicians that I have, had the pleasure of following.
I've always really been proud of my friend's work from the Smoky Bear Cave, from that venue, which is now defunct.
Mostly it's the guy who stands across the street from the police station in Worcester. He has one leg and he screams and he plays off time in an out of tune guitar, and he's just like such a nice human being, and he plays for like the Hat or the Guitar Case, and I don't know, I just really like him because he's out there every day screaming.
I know before the pandemic started, the Brookline Teen Center was like a huge hub for music. I know there were a lot of staple Brookline bands like, like Tom Sue performing there, and that definitely did garner a lot of Brookline kids and Brookline music listeners.
Ish.
I mean, there's once.
Well, yeah, once. I mean, yeah. Once. Okay. Well, once the physical location had kind of closed, and now they've got the Crystal Ballroom, sort of, and the outdoor venue at Boynton Yards. Yeah, we love once.
I mean, we're still all holding out hope for Great Scott. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if Great Scott's coming back, but that was a cool spot to play.
A lot of the venues, like Brainstar, has been great about COVID and things like that, but some of them aren't. And it's putting a bunch of people in a crowded. Yeah, most of them aren't. And they're putting like a lot of people into a crowded, unventilated basement that takes up a lot of space and is a lot of noise. So it's also, there's a back and forth, I think, to benefit and detriment.
I'd say if you want to talk about the Brookline music scene, BHS is where it's at. I think BHS definitely offers this environment and community where musicians can find each other, especially within the music program. Obviously, when you're little, when you're starting out as a freshman, you're scared and you don't know what to do with yourself and you don't want to share your music. But I think me going through the Brookline High School music program, you know, being in the music collective, the jazz band class, music production, even like stuff like concert band, which I wasn't a part of, but I knew a lot of people were. I know a lot of people got together from that, and there were many bands that were formed because of that.
Honestly, by the time everyone gets old enough to move out of their parents' house, they're not a Brookline music scene anymore.
When I was like, you know, a little high schooler, mostly the shows that I played were probably school shows. You had like talent shows. Even though I wasn't in the SWS program, I knew they had these like lounge shows that they did, and my friends in SWS would invite me to play at them.
There is a lot of resources, music resources, in like teenagers throughout like high school, even middle school, in Brookline, like the Teen Center and Brookline Interactive doing a lot of like art opportunities for local up and coming bands. We have a lot of resources, but also rent is too expensive.
Put on your Jason! If you break my heart, call it blasphemous. Treat me like your savior, then treat me like shit. Calamity strikes out on the abyss. If you try to hurt me again with a kiss,
any opportunity that comes your way comes with so many obstacles, particularly in Boston, from what I've noticed. You have to, there's a lot of resources you have to provide yourself. If you have a show, they may not have a PA system for you. They probably won't have transportation for you. There's a lot of things that you have to figure out, and a lot of, you know, money and time and effort that goes into these different ways to express, but they may not necessarily, you know, support you in the beginning.
And you're going to meet a lot of people that are kind of just, you know, doing what they can to kind of climb their way through like the social chain and not really care about like whatever is like beneath them. So I think in a lot of ways, I think it is very welcoming. It's a great community, but you know, it's like high school. It's like there's still going to be drama. There's still going to be people that are going to want to try to screw you over.
It seems welcoming in a lot of aspects. I think that's changed throughout the years, but you know, I think there's a lot of different people, so it's hard to say. Some people are, some people aren't. You feel like you're going to say something?
I think it's telling that the first question that popped into my head was welcoming for whom.
Yeah.
So I guess that in and of itself answers my own mini question, which is like, it definitely has times when it is not, but I think that like, you can't even, I don't even know if we can say scene at this point. Like, can we say the music scene and mean one thing? Because there are all these different threads within it, and there's all these different mini scenes within it. And I think like the type of scene that I would expect to go find at, like, for example, a Once show, I'm going to expect to find very welcoming to women, any gender minorities, all sorts of different people with disabilities and different needs and different, you know, everything. I find certain places to be very welcoming. I definitely think there's probably threads that are not that way, you know, and do we call this all the same scene? I'm going to get philosophical and not really know the answer to that, I guess.
I feel like it can be really difficult to break into if you're doing anything new in a lot of ways. Like if it's not a genre or a type of music that's more well known, there can be resistance to like getting booked, and I feel like as well not having vocals makes it really difficult to break into the scene.
I think that Boston has a lot of growing to do as far as those recognitions in a lot of ways, but at the same time there is such a huge, rich community of music makers in this area and just the greater Boston area in general that are welcoming, and you do go to shows and you have friends there, or you see someone who you maybe met up with one time, and having those different interactions come together and having a place for those interactions to come together is really important for the scene.
So I think that almost everyone, and hopefully everyone can find their place in the scene, or find a place that they want to be in the scene, if that makes sense. I don't know if I can go as far to say like the whole overall like scene is super welcoming to everybody, and I would love to find kind of the city or place where, you know, where it is, I guess.
I really have enjoyed performing here. There's so many ways to get involved. There's so many festivals in the area that I love, and there's like a lot of porch fests and different events that go on. And I think that there is like a community. You know, you do a show and you meet different bands and different artists, and you make more connections, and you pave yourself more opportunities to do what you love here. And I think that's what makes this area so supportive.
I tend to think, even though there is, you know, a welcoming crowd, I think a lot of these people aren't really able to express in terms of their music, or in terms of their art, or in terms of their social scene, you know, what they really want for that.
There's a lot of nuance to that question, and I think it depends upon who's seen. Like it's like that stereotypical Mean Girls high school table with the cliques. And I feel like no matter what city you go to, for the most part, there's always going to be its own little pockets of community. And I think those pockets of community are valid, although I do believe that some of them can be kind of not exclusive. Some of them can be, but not all.
I think that every local music scene can always strive to be more welcoming. There are always going to be groups of people with different identities, different backgrounds, from different genres, different instrumentalists that aren't being included in the community, or aren't being recognized for their contributions in the music community.
Education is so important, like especially as a musician, you know, it's like as music is constantly evolving through technology, just through instruments, through different genres, like different everything, you know, the education and understanding the basics of it is so important. But then you also kind of see, you know, colleges where it's like just so ridiculously expensive.
I think a lot of the kids that I see who play out are either, you know, they're involved with a college, like in the sort of normal Boston way, like taking classes, or, you know, learning something, you know, from like, you know, the school that they went to, or the school that they're in. I've seen really big bands come out of Boston, like Gorilla Toss, and I've seen really small independent artists become very big, like Britt O'Brien.
I think Berkeley is definitely like a dream school for a lot of people, including me. So it's, for me, throughout high school and basically my childhood, it kind of acted as like this goal that I wanted to reach. Like, I wanted to be a Berkeley student. I wanted to go play music with the cool kids, with the international people. And that definitely motivated me to, you know, get better, and motivated me to want to improve myself and learn more about music, expand my horizons, become more versatile as a musician.
I can say that we're happy, or at least I'm really happy, when we do play a show where we see college kids at it, because that means that there's some sort of hopefully productive overlap, and maybe these folks will keep the scene going. You know, we don't want to feel like it's just people our age and we're all gonna like die off as music goers or something. So I'm certainly happy to see like college kids who, to me, I'm gonna say younger folks at a show. Do we kind of feel awkward and old when that's the entire crowd? Sure, sometimes, but that just means that we're at a show that they put together, which, you know, it can still be cool.
There is a lot of gentrificational aspects of college and going to college, because not just because of the education, but just because of the environment and the like financial ability to go to college.
I think the scene in this area specifically is driven by Berkeley, because a lot of the reason this scene is so like powerful and successful and high quality is because it's people who are driving themselves to be professional musicians. So if you want to be doing this full time, you're going to be working as hard as you can, even at like the house show level.
You don't have to go to college to learn how to record, to have access to a space like this and be able to use equipment that most people don't have in their own home studios even.
So I went to community college, surprise. And most of the people that I went to college with were working shift older people. So I don't necessarily associate college with kids in the same way, but I lived in a lot of college kid neighborhoods, and I will say that the side of the street that they lived on was a lot cleaner than the side of the street that I lived on.
Gentrification definitely has a big impact on the Boston music scene. We have seen a lot of venues, a lot of practice spaces, studios be faced with losing their space, losing their physical location, or losing their business entirely. And with the pandemic in combination with gentrification, it's caused a lot of hiccups in the music community here. And I think it's really important that we all keep in mind how that impacts music makers and how we can work towards providing more music making space of all kinds.
When you're paying for rent in Boston or something like that, you're not, what you're paying in rent, you're not paying in strings, in gas, in everything else. And it's a big issue. Like, because you can't sustain a music career if you're making enough, like barely making enough to like survive, like keep yourself housed. Yeah.
That's a hard one because it's just starting to happen. We saw the demise of Great Scott, which was a fantastic local venue, and so many house shows which, you know, barely are open before they're closed. There is, you know, some recourse to this. If if you're a professional musician, you know, you might be able to play, you know, opener or even headliner, you know, at a bigger venue, and make, you know, money, which, you know, is not the usual thing for most indie touring bands.
I think it's killed a lot of the underground scene. The house shows are, I mean, maybe it's also because I might be older. I mean, there's a few houses around, but like it doesn't seem like it was like 10 years ago. And I think the bars are, you know, coming in and making it harder for people with lower income to like come out.
It's just damaging on all aspects, because while we do have a lot of loud musicians in like some venues, like in Cambridge, like punk, hardcore, metal, a lot of like extreme hip hop or like hardcore hip hop shows that would be able to be booked a few years ago, those venues are now closed because of either COVID or just gentrification, or pretty much both of them combined at once.
It's just beginning, so we really have to be cautious about where we're putting our money, and where we're putting our names on the dotted line.
If your community is being gentrified, you have to have your shit together. Can I say shit? I said shit. You have to have your shit together enough to pull together and to try to stop it from happening as much as you can. And if you can't, you can't, but at least went down swinging. But a lot of people just don't care about community as much these days, and I feel like that's where we fall short. And if you're out there watching and you have my pickle suit, I would like it back, please. Thank you.